Salve, salve, rapaziada. Eita. Salve, salve, rapaziada. Então, basicamente, eu estava de cupo alto, resolvi fazer live, mano. Sexta-feira 13, canal de terror, bagulho de terror, né, mano? Tipo assim, faz sentido na minha cabeça. Tava de cupo alto, resolvi fazer live, mano. É isso. Vou postar aqui no Instagram, postar no Twitter. Caralho, já vai chegando então. Ai, porra. Já vai chegando, tá tudo bugado. Aqui, ó. Vou postar uma storyzinha aqui, rapaziada. Então vai chegando aí, vai compartilhando. Ih, caralho. Salve, rapaziada. Sexta-feira 13, a live de terror, né, mano? Bagulho de terror, tô para fazer um bagulho de terror. Pô, separei não, pesquei aqui agora um bagulho pra ver, tem jogo pra jogar, então bora agora. Começou agora, vai até aí vai. Então bora que bora. Então, eu achei aqui uns vídeos maneiros que eu gostava de ver do BuzzFeed, né, mano? BuzzFeed Unsolved lá de fora. E tá com a legenda boazinha, maneirinha, tá ligado? Sexta-feira 13. A gente bota entre parênteses L. Putz. Cadê? No Twitter também. E aí, tipo assim, é isso. Tem Mortuary Assistant, tem Dark também. Um monte de coisa aí que dá pra jogar. Caralho. Tem um monte de coisa que dá pra jogar. Cadê? Vem de sexta-feira 13, né? Tem alguém mandando mensagem? Não. Vem de sexta-feira 13. Sexta-feira 13. Pronto. É isso. Então, bora aí, mano. Vamos ficar aí de bobeira e... haja o que tiver que ajar, mano. Tá ligado? Deixa eu botar aqui no Discord. Então bora. Acho que eu de início, mano, vou ver aqui uns vídeos do BuzzFeed, mano. Ai. Vamos ativar o adblock, né, pra não sair nenhuma propaganda que não tem. Cadê? Pô, eu já li esse livro de... Eu já li esse livro da possessão da Emily Rose. Caralho, ela é assim feita em cartoon mesmo? Isso aí pegou muito sol, tá ligado? Ela pegou muito sol e aí desmaiou. Vamos botar aqui, só ajeitar as categorias na Twitch, né, mano? A gente tá aqui... Cadê? Sexta-feira 13. Errou. Buzz. Então bora. Isso aí se chama asma, pô. asma, tá ligado? Quando bate aquela arma que tu fica... Dr. Dr. Luther. As imagens, parece o Rick do The Walking Dead, tá ligado? Caralho. Delanting. Delanting. Por que tu tá desmaiando assim? Porra, ó, eu nunca desmaiei na vida. Então eu não sei o que faz uma pessoa desmaiar. Na verdade eu sei. Mas tipo assim, eu nunca, como eu nunca desmaiei na vida, isso sempre foi meio que tipo um mito assim na minha vida. Então, por exemplo, eu já passei mal de ficar com falta de ar, já passei mal por diversos motivos. Mas esse não foi um deles. Cara, manter a Comic Sans. Caralho, mano. Ah, tava a quarta irmã assim na parede, tac, tac, tac. Tá ligado? Ai, vai tomar no cu. Jet Black. Jack Black. Os olhos dela viraram Jack Black. On the bare hand. Não vamos ficar. Eu amei da Rihanna, não vamos ficar presos nas mãos do urso. Dr. Luddy. Ah lá, ela. Tá porra. Eu sei como é que é o cheiro de merda queimada porque eu já explodi uma merda, já explodi um tolete de cocô de cachorro, uma bombinha. Então eu tenho minha desculpa. Essa é a minha desculpa. É muito específico esse cheiro de merda queimada, muito. Caralho. Eu era com medo de abelha. Pô, eu sou alérgico a abelha, não posso falar nada não. Eu correria tranquilamente também. Também correria tranquilamente. Um jesuíta. Tu vai entrar no médico com sintoma de resfriado e obstrução nasal e o médico fala assim: vai num jesuíta, né? Vai num pastor. Salve, Alt. Salve pra quem tá vendo a gente no YouTube. Deve dar um salve pelo YouTube, dá um like. Delanting. Eu imagino que essa seja a casa dela. Ai, que nervoso. Ih, quem tava no YouTube saiu. Porra. Vai virar uma vingadura, né, mano? Vai virar alguma coisa assim. Deixa eu pegar o meu hambúrguer que eu tava comendo. Peraí. Bora. Ragdoll. Caralho. Eu acho que eu poderia explodir uma maçã. Eu acho que eu conseguiria.
But still, that's not like a
exorcisms by his peers reported that he was convinced that Annalise was possessed, and after deliberation with the bishop, an exorcism on
A gente tem que conversar como é que funciona isso de deliberar que alguém está possuído. A pessoa recebe algum tipo de hora extra ou compensação. Bah, fulano tá possuído. Toma aqui, pra fazer hora extra. Tá entendendo onde eu quero chegar? Cara, essas imagens de banco são foda. Puta que pariu. A gente vai ouvir, clã? Vamos ver. Puta que pariu. Vou tirar o fone. Na moral. Na moral. Mano, sebo nas canelas, viado. Tá maluco. Sebo nas canelas demais. Caralho. É a festa, tá ligado? É o Legião, porra. Legião Urbana. Legião Urbana da mulher. Ah, mano, os cara tão zaralhando. Os caras tão perdendo a linha.
Annalise also named Fleischmann as one of her demons and provided accurate details of the real Fleischmann, who was a priest in the 1500s that was kicked out of the church for bad behavior. These details came as an icy shock to Father Alt, who claims Annalise would have no way of knowing Fleischmann.
that is the
Flashman.
that is strange. All the other
No.
stuff is just things that a person could do.
To learn more about demonic possession, we sat down with Father Gary Thomas, a Vatican-approved exorcist, who explained to us different signs of possession. All of these
Cara, tipo assim, eu acho esse papo muito louco, tá ligado? Eu acho esse papo bem louquinho. Não um louco de, eu não acredito. Um louco de tipo assim, mano, é um bagulho louco. Eu acho que é um bagulho louco, tá ligado? Um bagulho loucura.
So a person walks in this church and can't look at a crucifix, and you only see the one side. Another would be a knowledge of hidden claims, where the demon will begin to tell you things about yourself or what the person themselves have done. Another would be possessing a kind of inordinate physical strength of the body. And the last sign is sort of epileptic-like seizures on a person's face and the movement of their arms and legs in a way that makes it complete.
Caralho.
By May, Annalise became even worse, banging her head against the wall and biting herself and others, to the point where her family had to tie her up to prevent her from hurting herself. But most dangerously, Annalise refused to eat.
Aí é pica.
Described it as, quote, not being permitted to eat.
Aí é pica.
Frail, likely weighing under 80 pounds, she exhibited great strength when people tried to restrain her.
Yeah, I just feel bad for her at this point. Yeah, I do feel bad. It was definitely torture.
Ih. Espera aí que vai entrar uma propaganda aqui, ó. Propaganda rolou quase toda aqui no...
By June, Annalise's entire face was sunken. She also
Ah, mano, não tá saindo áudio.
Even though she had a very
Ai, tá saindo, que susto. Ai, achei que não tava saindo esse áudio esse tempo todo, viado. Mas tava meio baixo. Admito, tava meio baixo.
On June 30th,
Porra, vou abaixar um pouquinho agora ficou alto demais.
Annalise had another exorcism, only saying please, absolution. The next morning, her family went to her room and found her dead. Despite seeking medical attention early on, Annalise refused to submit to medical attention in the end, as she and her family ultimately placed all faith of recovery into the exorcisms. She died of starvation at the age of 23 after 67 exorcisms, weighing 68 pounds at the time of her death.
Do you think that just made her like buy into it more? If people started to
Acho que agora vai rolar o papo do processo, tá ligado?
you in the rig? Yeah, I might eventually be like, I guess I'm demons.
I would agree with that frame of mind, but Annalise's belief that she was possessed predates
all
the exorcisms or the priests or any of that stuff. After her death, Annalise's parents and the two priests were accused of negligent homicide, and the case went to trial in 1978. What follows are the two sides of that case. First, let's review the position of the defense. The defense presented eyewitness testimony and formally submitted the recordings as evidence of possession, an idea that the court never seemed to take seriously. From a non-religious standpoint, the defense argued Annalise was permitted to deny medical treatment, as was her lawful right. For what it's worth, medical treatment might have included tranquilizing her, force-feeding her, and electroshock therapy.
Cara, terapia de eletrochoque é um bagulho que já dá uma catinguelada assim na mente, né, mano? Porque é foda, terapia de eletrochoque é um bagulho meio pesado. Aí, tira isso aqui.
Quote, all presumably against her will, end quote. Family friend Thea Hine recalled in her testimony that in 1976, a few months before Annalise's death, Annalise reportedly, quote, begged on her knees for Hine to not suggest medical attention to anybody. Also worth noting is the fact that Father Alt actually looked for medical help towards the end. And on May 30th, his friend Dr. Richard Roth visited Annalise.
Essas fotos estão me acabando, mano.
Scientific curiosity and not as a physician.
Look, I'm not here as a doctor.
O maluco chegando falando, cara, eu não tô aqui pra ajudar, eu tô aqui pelo entretenimento, tá ligado? E puxa ele um balde de pipoca.
I just want to see some of this crazy shit.
I know, who fucking says that?
I want to see this girl eat some spiders.
That's
Caralho,
what you
mano.
say when you go to the zoo. Not when you go see someone that's tied up.
That is a bad man.
Ah, mano.
In his visit, Dr. Roth claims Annalise had no external injuries, although Father Renz noted she had swollen cheek and black eyes. An interesting contradiction, to say the least. Dr. Roth also denied saying, quote, there are no...
Eu acho que tá todo mundo culpado nessa situação. Eu acho que... Eu quero saber, tipo assim, quem processou eles, tá ligado? Tipo assim, alguém olhou a garota morrendo, acho que foi tipo a lei, né? Tipo, eu não manjo de direito, então tipo, a lei, a garota morreu, aí foram investigar as causas da morte, né? A polícia, CSI, e aí falaram assim, ah não, porra, essa garota, tá ligado? Ela tá... Tô com meio escuro. Essa garota, ela morreu meio suspeita, tá ligado? Vamos processar essa galera aí.
Curiously, in spite of all the supposed epileptic attacks, an autopsy revealed Annalise had a healthy brain with no damage that could have caused epileptic seizures. Quote, not even on a microscopic level, end quote.
What say you to that? I mean, you know...
Como é que você, tipo assim, óbvio, ela tava morta, botaram o cérebro dela numa lâmina aí.
What's a brain scientist?
Neurologist?
Neurologista, porra.
It's been a long day. I'm not a neurologist. I don't.
Neurologist.
You said that because the neurologist said the exact same thing.
He said I'm not a.
Ah, tu chega lá e fala, pô, você é um neurologista, preciso de neurologista. E fala, não.
Probably sounds like it. He might as well.
Look, I don't fucking know.
I don't know. Go visit a Jesuit.
Tipo, mano.
Just get your shit.
Tá precisando de um médico?
And even more curious was the court's seeming non-consideration of facts, such as her pupils being unusually dilated and the absence of ulcers on her body, which are frequently found in victims of starvation.
Okay, all right.
Any quotes on that?
I mean, you know,
This is great. The table turned, in my opinion.
Now, let's review the position of the prosecution. The prosecution argued that Annalise had epilepsy and psychosis, and that the parents and two priests were liable for failing to act to save her life.
Agora é o lado da galera que processou
Court
eles.
found notions of possession. They questioned the credibility of Father Alt, with the conclusion from two experts that Father Alt exhibited signs of schizophrenia.
Aí é foda. Quem vigia os vigilantes?
whoa, that's weird.
He wasn't the guy that was doing the exorcisms, but he was the guy that initially helped Annalise.
The prosecution
Ah,
argued
man.
that the medications given successfully suppressed the epilepsy-like seizures, and argued that that suppression morphed into, quote, a delusional psychosis associated with epilepsy, end quote. They argued that Annalise's psychosis
Cara, esses advogados parece que eles queriam muito ganhar, tá ligado? Parece que eles queriam muito
was
ganhar.
exacerbated by the exorcism, which only played into her fantasy. To piggyback on that, Annalise often went through phases between exorcisms where she behaved normally, even though she would behave as a possessed person during exorcisms. It's unclear if the epilepsy-like seizures were stopped by medication or if they actually stopped on their own. But Annalise's psychotic visions predate the alleged medical suppression.
Weird. Sorry.
Basically,
É
it's
muito
saying
estranho.
that the psychosis was brought on by the suppression of the drugs.
Yeah.
But this psychosis
happened.
predates the drugs. Exactly.
In the end, the court ruled in
Caralho. Parece que a galera tá inventando muita historinha, tá ligado? Pra poder fazer tudo encaixar.
sentencing the four defendants to 6 months in prison with suspension for 3 years and payment for all court
Caralho.
fees. The court ruled that Annalise was unable to make decisions for herself and should have been forced to submit to medical care.
No final ficou elas por elas, né? Tirando a cadeia, isso
Professor
sim.
Felicitas D. Goodman, an author of a book on the case, notes the theories that Annalise was epileptic were presented as, quote, a statement of undisputable fact, not conjecture, as in fact they had been, end quote.
How do you tell the
Olha lá ele.
possession and mental health?
Sometimes both are going along side by side. You have to determine what is the root cause.
A cara dos caras dele, tipo assim.
You have to
Tipo, que porra é essa que tu tá falando, mano?
determine what is the root cause of the suffering of this individual. You start out with a discernment, and the discernment involves myself and a whole team of people. I have a medical doctor, a clinical psychologist, and a psychiatrist. A formal exorcism only happens as the last resort.
Given the evidence that we've
Então é tipo assim, eles chamam os Vingadores da Saúde Mental. Tem um padre, tem um de tudo, né? Um de cada, assim, pra não dar merda. E aí no final não deu certo, todo mundo dá as mãos e fala assim, irmão, exorcismo. Pode pá, exorcismo, exorcismo.
and all the strange occurrences and the voices, I think there's sufficient evidence to not conclusively rule out that she was possessed beyond a reasonable doubt.
Sure.
So you acknowledge that.
I acknowledge there's a lot of factors in this case. I personally think there's something going on with mental health, and I also think that 67 exorcisms probably don't leave your mind in a good spot.
I could see both sides.
Exatamente.
Mental health. I could see how it would be a possession. I lean towards possession.
Tipo assim, 67 exorcismos, tá ligado?
Get that girl to a hospital,
She's
please.
possessed or not, fucking force her to go to the hospital and let the doctors be like, holy shit, the shit's floating around.
Os médicos falam, não, realmente, o laudo dela, o atestado.
Take him to an exorcist. Take him to an exorcist, but do it at the hospital.
No, don't take them. Take them straight to the hospital.
You can do both.
Porra, esse vídeo me deixou cagadíssimo, tá? Eu não queria falar nada, não. Mas esse vídeo me deixou bem cagadinho, mano. Esse vídeo aqui, ó, caprichou, hein? Porra, me arregaçou esse vídeo. Deixa eu ver aqui. Vamos ver. Tem um Solve de Brasil, não, né?
That's Brent this week on BuzzFeed Unsolved. We're covering the real-life men in
Vamos ver. Vamos ver se tem mais algum legal. Ai. Vamos ver se tem mais algum legal. Os desaparecimentos mais estranhos no Triângulo das Bermudas. É isso que a gente vai ver. Foda-se. Os mais estranhos.
Discuss the enduring mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. What is it? Is it real? Only one way to find out. Any thoughts going in before?
I love airplanes. I bet there's a lot of airplanes in this one.
Oh, there's a whole lot of airplanes. If you're a fan of airplanes, I got news for you. This is going to be a great day.
Cadê?
The Bermuda Triangle is an area of the Atlantic Ocean roughly bounded by Miami, Puerto Rico.
Que é em formato de um triângulo.
Its actual range is debated. Some estimate it covers between 500,000 to a million square miles.
I guess I thought it was further north.
Are you about to beautiful mind this, or?
É, eu não achei que também era bem no tipo assim, bem ali na beirolinha, na pontinha da cabeça da beirola sabe, das praias, das coisas assim. Eu achei que fosse lá mais pro caralho, tá ligado? Achei que fosse lá, porra, longe.
There's a glaze that's come over your eyes. I don't know what's. The term Bermuda Triangle actually didn't come into use until 1964, when it was
Alguém foi lá e falou.
cover story for Argosy magazine.
E Vincent Gatos, o nome dele.
It's used to describe an area where there seemed to be an uncommon amount of disappearances of ships and planes.
Que triângulo?
In the Time magazine, between 1946 and 1991 alone, there were over 100 disappearances of ships and planes in the Bermuda Triangle.
Ou só não tinha um radarzinho ali e tem uma pedrinha ali na beirola com uma ponta fina que tem sempre alguém batendo, meu parceiro.
Thought. Is it annoying that I hold this pen?
Oh yeah, it's really
Well, it's here now, forever. You got your paper. I'm sitting over here just twiddling my thumbs. It's nice to have a little.
I think your douche meter is usually at half mast. Right now it's about 3/4.
Foda-se, gente, continua falando.
Through the roof.
Pode continuar falando.
That being
Pode
said,
continuar falando.
let's discuss some of the more mysterious incidents in the Bermuda Triangle.
Ah, vamos.
Allegedly, the first recorded account was made by none other than Christopher Columbus during his famous
Ah! Vocês estão ligados esse maluco, né?
to discover America.
Oh, he discovered it all right. Just
Ah.
to be fair, fuck Christopher Columbus.
Ah.
On the Bermuda Triangle, Columbus, along with crew, noted a variety of odd occurrences.
Pô, gente, não era Triângulo da Bermuda, é obviamente o Drácula,
Ship's
cara.
compass began malfunctioning. There were mysterious lights over the water. The sea was rougher than
Bandeira do
the
Vasco.
entire voyage.
Oh, it seems choppy here. Must be haunted.
Ah, eu não sei fazer meu trabalho, então o barco tá assombrado.
This ocean's full of
I'm
ghosts.
saying it was
I get
no. I did not say that. I just said that. What are you taking notes over there? This isn't a debate, or it kind of is. Ryan is an idiot. That. You proud of yourself?
Caralho.
At one point, he may have even seen a fireball fly through the sky and crash into the sea. Let's jump forward
Ah, mano.
to modern.
Tava chapadão Cristóvão Colombo.
All the events
Cristóvão,
we'll discuss were
Cristóvão Colombo assim, ó. Na brenfa.
failed rescue attempts.
Na brenfa.
4th, 1918, the USS Cyclops, one of the Navy's largest fuel ships at the time, disappeared somewhere north of Barbados. One of the more chilling details.
Na brenfa, na brenfa. Pera aí. Na brenfa, pera aí.
It never sent out a distress signal, and nobody
Pronto.
aboard answered any of the calls from the hundreds of ships that were reporting
Aí,
in the
irmão,
vicinity.
a culpa é mais de
As the
vocês,
USS
né?
Cyclops seemingly drifted out of existence.
Ciclopes.
You don't think that's strange? It was in one of the Navy's largest fuel ships that doesn't just disappear.
Doesn't sink.
I mean, maybe.
The Titanic, she was a mighty one.
I suppose.
Ela afunda o Titanic.
But there was also
Titanic é foda.
helpless kind of thing.
I don't know. Ships sink, you know.
É o trabalho dos navios. Afundar.
A Douglas Dakota DC-3 airplane carrying 26 people disappeared 50 miles from its destination in Florida.
Gente, tá no fundo do oceano, né?
Final radio call to indicate its nearby position. It was never heard from again.
Honestly, this one, these don't do much for me because
Eles afundaram, mano.
They literally radioed in, like, I read it was 20 minutes away from the airport.
and then a goose flew into the propeller and they just fucking
To where?
the ocean.
No oceano, caralho.
One, a ship called the
Mas, tipo assim, o oceano é foda, né, mano? Tipo assim, o oceano é foda. A gente pode até depois ver um vídeo das criaturas mais assustadoras do oceano. Mas o oceano é foda, não tem como gastar muito com o oceano, né, mano?
Northern Districts
Tipo assim, tem mais área lá do oceano que dá. É melhor estar no espaço, tá ligado?
disappeared after being seen near the Bermuda Triangle. 4 years later, in 1955, the only piece of evidence in regards to the ship's whereabouts was discovered on the Florida coast, a life preserver, eerily bearing the missing ship's name. On December 22nd, 1967, a 23-foot cabin cruiser called the Witchcraft, which was built to be
Witchcraft.
virtually unsinkable, disappeared along with its tube.
Mano, o que significa praticamente inafundável?
One of whom was an experienced sailor named Dan Barak. The boat sported a flotation device in the hull that should have allowed part of the Witchcraft to remain afloat, even if the boat was filled with water. About a mile out from Miami Beach, Barak called the Coast Guard after hitting something.
Barack Obama.
Requested a tow back to shore. Barak was reportedly calm in the call, nor did
Barak.
he say his boat was sinking. However, when the Coast Guard arrived, Barak, his passenger, and the Witchcraft were nowhere to be found and never seen again. Many wonder how
Tá geral na Terra 427. Isso aí é uma passagem direto pro universo paralelo, mano.
men aboard an unsinkable ship equipped with life jackets, floatable seat cushions, and flares could go missing, let alone
Caralho, que susto, mano. Porra, toda hora fica aparecendo. Meu adblock, ele não tá funcionando direito, né? Meu adblock não tá funcionando direito, né? Então aí a gente tem que aturar essas coisinhas. Porra, mas mudou do nada, viado. Que susto. Ah, eu posso...
So what are you positing here? That it's in an alternate dimension?
Some of these, they
Sim.
actually sent out parts of the Navy. The whole 9 yards.
Sim.
They sent everyone out. Nothing.
É de fato uma realidade alternativa.
Documentation. Look up the stories. I'm just
I'm
saying.
gonna look them up. What else disappeared?
Meu piro. Mentira.
You're seething.
I can't believe you think this is not weird.
I can't believe you don't think that boats sink.
the last and arguably most
Cara, eu tô com os dois. Eu acredito que é estranho e acredito que todos eles afundaram.
is the story of Flight 19. On December 5th, 1945, 5 military
Mano, 1945, muita coisa esquisita aconteceu, né?
Avenger torpedo bombers departed Fort Lauderdale, Florida at roughly 2:10 p.m. on a routine training mission. Supports say that the planes had been checked before the mission.
Ah, mano, sinceramente, tá no meio da Segunda Guerra Mundial, aí você tem que fazer, não sei se foi isso, já tinha começado, não lembro a data agora, mas você tá no meio de um ano meio merda, né, as tensões estavam lá em cima, aí tu vai fazer um voo de treinamento em cima do Triângulo da Bermuda, porra, mano, aí bater uma punheta, né, amigo?
To be favorable. Also significant is the durability of the TBM Avengers they were piloted, which were nicknamed Iron Birds on account of their rugged design and their propensity.
Ai, mano, eles são de aço e eles voam, né, porra, metal,
Known as
sei lá.
Flight 19, the 5 TBM Avenger airplanes carried 14 men, led by instructor Lieutenant Charles Taylor. Shortly after completing their training mission, Lieutenant Taylor became lost in the area now known as the Bermuda Triangle. Since this was an era before GPS, Taylor and his pilots relied heavily on compasses, both of which were malfunctioning. An emergency transmission sent by one of the pilots was
Man.
picked up by a control tower.
We can't find west. Everything is wrong. We can't be sure of any direction. Everything looks strange.
Eu acho que é uma dimensão diferente. Caralho, que susto, cara.
Wait a second here. Hold the phone, sir. Okay. Before you said the only thing was missing here was the actual transmission. I just gave you the transmission. You don't think that's strange now?
Certainly, it's a strange case.
About 20 minutes later,
O maluco sendo pago pra falar, agora é um trabalho estranho.
his last transmission, his voice allegedly distressed. Quote,
We can't make out anything. We think we may be about 225 miles northeast of base.
Ah, se perdeu no ar, irmão. Pula do avião, velho.
West.
minutes after the last transmission,
Tô falando, o Triângulo da Bermuda é o que, ó. Tá ligado, mano?
a PBM
Outra dimensão, pô.
flying boat took off on a rescue mission. That boat would radio the control tower once before also vanishing.
Choppy. Choppy out there.
Ah, mano. Ah, mano.
After a widespread search attempt failed, the Navy's final report of the incident allegedly concludes, quote, "We are not even able to make a good guess as to what happened."
Porra, os caras se perderam e automaticamente ficaram retardados. Ou então, eles estavam numa dimensão paralela que ainda se conseguiu comunicar com a nossa.
Not me. That's the fucking Navy saying that.
Gotcha.
Os...
Inconclusive.
A marinha tava perdida, mano.
Incidents. Let's go over some of the theories as to what the Bermuda Triangle actually is. The first theory
Uma porta para outra dimensão.
is an area of the supernatural, but rather a naturally dangerous place for sailing. Most hurricanes and other tropical storms in the Atlantic.
Pô, eu acho que é, mano. Eu acho que, tipo assim, o Triângulo das Bermudas é o quê? É um lugar naturalmente perigoso pra você tá. E tem ali é tipo como se pode ser tipo um epicentro do planeta Terra de merda que rola, tá ligado? Então, tipo assim, mano, passar por lá é complicado, porque, tipo assim, tu, porra, vem uma onda gigante, um furacão piroca, entendeu?
Atlantic pass through the Bermuda Triangle. Storms and unpredictable atmospheric conditions can cause phenomena such as water spouts, which look like water pools.
Manchas d'água.
The Bermuda
Sim.
Triangle also has some of the deepest underwater trenches within it, so wreckage
Então,
could have potentially fallen
tá vendo?
far beneath the ocean's surface. Finally,
Eu acho que é isso, mano.
research shows that there is no evidence that disappearances happen more frequently in the Bermuda Triangle than any other part of the ocean.
Uh-oh. Oh no.
That doesn't explain how.
Eu acho que talvez tenha gente que saiba demais por aí. Aí o que, que eles estão fazendo? Estão assim, ó, não, nada acontece no Triângulo da
What's happening
Bermuda.
in high concentration in the one small
High
area.
concentration. It's 1,000,000 square miles.
In comparison to the ocean, that's a small area.
All right. Yeah, 1,000,000 square miles. Tiny.
The second theory is that the Bermuda Triangle is home to a magnetic phenomenon. It's been proven to be a place
Pode ser também.
the magnetic north line up. Some research indicates that this may affect
Pode ser.
compass readings. Some science also indicates
É,
that
tem, pra afetar a bússola tem que ser um bagulho magnético, né, meu
lightning
brother?
during storms may further affect or intensify the magnetic fields, which could account for compass and electrical machinery failures and radio
Viu?
interference.
Eu não sou nenhum
The rare phenomenon
Jorge Rei da Floresta, mas...
also form such electrical storms, accounting for the strange
Caralho.
lights seen by Columbus and in other Bermuda Triangle accounts.
So this is another one of those cases where is this all one theory or two?
These are two theories.
First one seems pretty
Ah, duas teorias.
reasonable. Yep. Second one seems even more reasonable.
Eu não, eu não descarto, eu acho que pode ser as duas teorias juntas.
We're about to enter some choppy territory
Where
here.
do you think it's gonna happen next?
Agora vai ficar
Third
maluco.
theory is that those lost in the Bermuda Triangle are actually now residents of the legendary lost civilization of Atlantis.
Ah, aí é pica, não tem como não.
No, they're not.
Equally composite.
Aí é pica.
Possibly an ancient naval power, but according to legend,
É, todo mundo que vai no... Os atlantianos estão tristes, aí todo mundo que passa no Triângulo das Bermudas, ele... Nhau.
disappeared into the sea in just one day. In the 1970s, a writer named Charles Berlitz hypothesized that the entire city of Atlantis was actually a victim of the Bermuda Triangle, and now resides and thrives under the sea within the triangle's bounds. Berlitz theorized that the technology and weaponry of Atlantis was so advanced that it continues to contribute to the mysterious sinking of ships and planes. Some believe that which is lost in the Charles Berlitz hypothesized that the entire city of Atlantis was actually a victim of the Bermuda Triangle, and now resides and thrives under the sea within the triangle's bounds. Berlitz
Os caras se
theorized that
afogaram,
the
mano.
technology and weaponry of Atlantis was so advanced that it
Pô,
continues
alguém...
to contribute to the mysterious sinking of ships and planes.
Ah, é, alguém tá lendo DC Comics demais aí. Aí já viajou, já perdeu a linha.
Exist in Atlantis beneath the sea.
Já perdeu a linha.
See your face and it's just fuming and
Because
getting.
this is absurd.
The fourth theory is that the Bermuda Triangle is actually a gateway to another universe, or in scientific
Sim,
terms,
é o que eu acredito.
of sorts.
I think if there were a black hole anywhere near our solar system, everything would cease to exist.
Well, we don't know anything about black holes.
Yes, we know a fair amount about black
I
holes.
mean, we haven't been able to actually experiment on them or have any quantifiable data.
É, tipo assim, pô, mano, é impossível ter um buraco negro dentro da Terra. Pô, mano, tu não sabe de nada de buraco negro. Então, assim, ninguém sabe nada de buraco negro.
I think there's a lot that you don't know.
Some say this would account for the fact that travel times through the region are unpredictable, with some flights getting to their destination faster than usual. In the 1970s, pilot Bruce Gernon testified that he had escaped an incident in the Bermuda Triangle, which he described as an electronic fog. His plane was submerged in a gray haze and his compasses failed. He flew blindly for 3 minutes before his radio informed him he was flying over Miami. When he looked down at his watch, 40 minutes had passed, but he had traveled a distance comparable to 90 minutes of flight.
Have you thought about a black hole that could possibly only be opened up when it's when someone wants it to? Like a cosmic trickster?
Cara, de repente é uma pegadinha de um ser da quinta dimensão, tá ligado?
Yeah, okay. I buy that more than I buy Atlantis. Cosmic Cheshire Cat.
Also in the 1970s, an unconventional Canadian scientist, John Hutchison, found in his work that electromagnetic fields could interfere with each other, and when such a phenomenon including making metals glow, change form, or become disfigured. Some theorize that this effect, appropriately named the Hutchison effect, could conceivably create
The Hudson effect.
The fifth and final theory is a classic. The disappearances within the Bermuda Triangle are the result of extraterrestrials.
Mano, eu também voto nesse.
By aliens would certainly explain sudden and absolute disappearances.
Eu voto nesse.
A secret U.S. Navy base in the Bahamas linked to aquatic alien activity, referred to as
Aí já perdeu a linha.
Area 51.
Aí já perdeu a linha.
Okay. Tell me about underwater area.
Aí já perdeu a linha.
Oh, that's it. That's it about area.
That's it?
No, there's nothing else.
How? Why?
In 2014, at least 2 passengers on a Carnival cruise.
Why?
In 2014, at least 2 passengers on a Carnival cruise within the Bermuda Triangle said they saw a UFO fly over them in the middle of the day.
To be fair, not trusting.
Cara, sabe o que eu acho que é também Triângulo das Bermudas? Pode ser a mistura de tudo, viado. Triângulo das Bermudas pode ter um pouco de tudo. É a área de cadinho. Cadinho de cada um, tá ligado? Tem fantasma, tem doppelganger, tem tudo.
I've never been on one and I will never go on one. I assume they were drunk or high. Or just out of their minds.
É.
I was gonna say there's even recorded footage, but unfortunately.
Me dei os caralho.
You know what? I could show it to you right now. My
I'd love to see.
How about that? I'll show it to you right now.
This is shopped to high heaven.
What makes you say that?
I mean, look. This is.
Okay.
That is the shittiest footage I've ever
Virgão.
seen. So fake.
I forgot.
Just turn that opacity down for that one.
The numerous and bizarre disappearances continue to vex them. What could be causing these incidents? Is the Bermuda Triangle a thing of the supernatural? Or is it simply an area with a high concentration of unnerving
Óbvio, de alienígenas.
remain unsolved?
Alienígenas. É isso que tá lá. É isso que tem lá.
We examined 3 of the most compelling cases of alien abduction, at least in my opinion.
I mean, the possibility that aliens exist is very likely. I don't know if I believe most of what you're.
Olha só, se você não acredita em fantasmas, mas acredita em alienígenas, eu acho uma hipocrisia. Primeiro porque eu acredito nos fantasmas alienígenas, ainda existe isso, tá? A gente não pode descartar fantasmas alienígenas.
I just don't understand how you could believe in aliens, but then just not, believe in the prospect that they could maybe
Exatamente.
poke around a little.
Exatamente.
Put a little rod up your butthole, stuff like that.
I don't know.
Nossa.
I don't think I do. That's it.
Well, I'm gonna get into it now. Here we go. The first case is the abduction of Travis Walton.
Travis Walton, isso aí é nome de sequestrado mesmo.
Travis Walton was working in a 7-man tree thinning crew in Apache Sitgreaves.
Geral tinha cara preta assim no início, né? Tapada.
On the drive back home, Travis noticed a bright light coming through the trees. When the men got closer, they saw that it was, quote, a strange golden disc, end quote, hovering
Strange golden dick.
20 feet off the ground, with a 15 to 20 foot diameter and 8 to 10 foot width. Though his co-workers warned that he should stay away, Travis approached the craft, hearing loud vibrations as the craft began spinning erratically. Suddenly, a blue-green light sprung from the craft, striking Travis in the chest and head, catapulting him backwards several feet.
Pô, alguém só deu uma porrada muito forte nele, tá devendo, mano, o movimento.
The guy who dies first in a scary movie.
Yeah. Because in that situation, I probably would walk toward it, and then that'd be the end of me.
What would your thought be as you walk towards this extremely bright light through the trees?
Like, get a load of this shit.
That's the last thought you'd have in your head?
I'd probably be curious. I'd walk toward it.
What would make you curious enough to walk
Pô, essa parte deles falando é paia.
You would be the best person to get abducted.
Oh, absolutely.
Caralho, você seria a melhor pessoa pra ser sequestrado.
Aliens would get tired of me. They'd kick me off.
You'd be like, oh, good costumes.
Yeah.
Ele seria maluco, foi ficar fazendo piadinha, ia morrer, que os caras ficaram putos. Numbing.
Like a high voltage electrocution. My mind sank quickly into unfeeling blackness.
Não estou vendo, Mauro, os seus contatos.
Caralho. Caralho, a Siri só ligou do nada, viado. Pô, rapaziada, vai continuar com a luz ligada.
And witnessed this, Travis's friends fled the scene, assuming Travis to be dead.
Aren't these like burly
Caralho.
lumberjacks?
My friend,
It sounds like kind of a funny image when you think of it, though.
a bunch of scared lumberjacks.
No, you're like your big burly friend being like, no, check it out. And it just.
Caralho.
The men observed the saucer fly up to the top of the trees and to the northeast. Some of the men returned to the scene out of guilt, only to find that Travis was no longer there.
So they went back for him. It
Caralho.
took them a day to come to their senses, but if you see some your impulse is to run, at least a normal person's.
Pô, eu ia correr, eu não ia nem voltar no dia seguinte, mano. Ia só ligar pra polícia.
Impulse is to run.
Ó, tem presunto pra recolher.
Sure. Okay. Let's pretend they had guns.
Yeah.
There's a giant hovering disc that's spinning at top speed and shot a bolt of lightning through a man's chest. And your solution is to shoot at it with a pistol?
Better than stand there and let it.
Isso é muito ser humano.
How about run? What they did.
Isso é muito ser humano médio branco, tá ligado?
Now, let's board the train to Crazy Town and go into Travis's recollection of what happened when he woke up. And this is only.
Caralho.
Before we get into this, is there anything we need to know about Travis?
No.
Ele tem histórico de doença mental, delusional.
Writing about the experience, Travis awoke in what appeared to be a medical office or lab with a
Tá
triangle
de boa.
ceiling among three humanoid beings with large brown eyes and abnormally large heads. They stood
Ah, é a cabeça do meu
wearing
peru.
soft, billowy orange-brown overalls.
What?
Ah, ah,
Like minions.
Now I'm just gonna imagine this guy being operated on by minions.
Travis attacked the three beings, who then retreated, as Travis explored other rooms in an attempt to escape.
ah, os caras olharam e falaram assim, ah, é um animal raivoso, animal raivoso. Ah, qual é a calabresa? Qual é a Isabela?
He encountered
E os caras atacaram o alienígena. O cara atacou os alienígenas. Ah, mano, botaram uma roupa de Adam Warlock nele. O cara atacou os alienígenas falaram assim: ah, não, animal raivoso, tá ligado? Vamos fugir. Dito isso, se um médico veterinário pegar um, sei lá, guaxinim selvagem pra tratar ele, levar pro consultório, o guaxinim tentar atacar o médico também foge, mano, tá ligado? Tipo, todo mundo fugiria de um animal raivoso. Onde é que eu quero chegar com isso? Eu quero chegar com isso que alienígenas estão em posição equivalente de superioridade como um médico se sente. Médicos são alienígenas e alienígenas são
the
médicos.
three beings, who then retreated. As Travis explored other rooms in an attempt to escape, he encountered a large, muscular man wearing a helmet.
Porra é essa?
Who forced him out of the craft into a warehouse with other saucers, eventually leading him into another room with three
Ah, esse cara tava achando.
all very
Ah, esse cara tava.
quote,
Ah, esse cara tava sonhando.
women were standing around the table. They
Todos
all
eles eram
wore
brancos.
blue
E
uniforms,
todos eles eram brancos.
except that they had no helmet.
Pô, cara, LOL, eu não sei jogar LOL, né? Até me falaram pra eu fazer um bagulho tentando aprender a jogar LOL. Mas LOL eu não sei. Agora, Phasmophobia tá aí. Inclusive, estamos de cupo alto. Quer jogar um Phasmophobia? A gente joga um Phasmophobia.
Two men had the same muscularity and the same masculine good looks as the first man. The woman also had a face and figure.
Cara, esse maluco tá descrevendo Planeta dos
that was the
Macacos.
epitome of her gender, They were smooth-skinned.
De um jeito estranho. Epitome of her gender. Pô, esse cara bate punheta de frente pro espelho, mano.
No moles, freckles, wrinkles, or scars marked their skin.
This guy sounds a little bit creepy right now. Because I think if you were on a spaceship, internalizing a lot of information right now, you know, you're surrounded by aliens, suddenly you see other people and you're not like, you don't go up to them and say...
Às vezes é uma colaboração, tá ligado? Raça humana e alienígenas. Abriram um consultório veterinário juntos.
Instead, you're looking at them going, no blemishes.
No, I'm just
Smooth, like porcelain.
I'm a man.
Smooth operator.
The good looks of the man I had first met became more obvious on seeing them all together. They shared a family-like resemblance, although they were not identical.
Mal tava no Texas. Tava vendo os filhos dos irmãos e dos primos.
Gently pushed him onto a table and put a mask over his mouth and nose.
Ah, mano.
Travis passed out. The next thing Travis knew, he was lying on the ground in Heber, Arizona. He saw a silvery disc-shaped craft hovering above the road near him, which then flew straight up into the sky and disappeared silently. Although he only believed it was an hour or an hour and a half, he later learned he had been missing for 5 days.
Caralho.
In this period of 5 days, the rest of Travis's crew came under investigation for Travis's disappearance. During this investigation, suspects underwent psychiatric testing and polygraphs, during which none of the men confessed to faking the abduction. All of the later lie detector tests administered to Travis and...
Eu acho que alguém fez uma pegadinha dele, pegou 5 pessoas brancas e loiras extremamente parecidas. O resto é história.
A psychiatrist suspected that the entire abduction was in Travis's imagination, but could not explain why the others went along with it. In a recent HuffPost Weird News podcast, Travis said, quote, about 15 years later, it was discovered that the trees nearest to where the UFO hovered had been producing wood fiber at 36 times the rate it had been in the 85 years before that. A complete core sampling revealed that this thickened growth was only on the side of the trees towards
As árvores estão tomando bomba.
that the craft had been. End quote. As if this case couldn't get any more.
Ah, tipo assim, é na madeira do lado que ele tomou madeirada dos alienígenas, tá ligado?
Fox's moment of truth,
A Fox não tem muito contexto lá fora, não.
where a polygraph was conducted on stage. This particular polygraph determined that he was not telling.
Ah, isso que eu ia falar, porque polígrafo todo mundo sabe que tem como você cheatar polígrafo, né? É tipo comumente sabido. Tu força o músculo do cu, tá ligado? Força o músculo do cu e tem umas paradas aí também que tem como fazer. L1R1.
Regardless, Travis maintains that the events transpired as he has told them.
Ah, mano.
Witnessing polygraphs that were taken earlier in an official place were all passing or.
Maluco flexionou o cu,
So
cara.
that's what matters to me. I think this game show thing doesn't really prove shit.
Is he still alive?
He's still alive.
Can't we just... Anytime anyone has inconclusive evidence about a polygraph like that, just bring him back in. How hard is that?
Sim?
Where you at, Travis? Where you at?
You want him to tell you about the orange billowy
I want to hear about it. I want to ask him why it was so obscene.
Chama ele, pô. Esses caras são americanos.
Is the abduction of Linda Napolitano.
Ah, mano. Linda napolitana. Qual é o sabor de sorvete mais bonito do mundo? É o Linda Napolitano. Puta que pariu.
Worked closely with Linda
A But
and
Hopkins.
emphasized her case. On November 30th, 1989.
Tipo assim, tu não vê mais caso de abdução recente. É tipo aquele programa do Discovery alienígenas do passado. Tipo, é tudo batido já, tá ligado? Não tem muita coisa nova, assim, em caso de bagulho de alienígena. Talvez os alienígenas tenham desistido da Terra. Os últimos acontecimentos não acharia. Dados os últimos acontecimentos, eu não descartaria isso.
3:15 a.m. in New York City. Linda Napolitano claims she awoke to find short aliens.
Ô Calabresa, se você quiser a gente joga Phasmophobia, hein?
As she perceived the the beings to be telling her to be quiet in an odd way.
Caralho.
Claims she awoke to find short aliens around her bed. She found herself unable to wake up her husband as she perceived the beings to be telling her to be quiet in an odd language. The beings then levitated her outside her 12th story apartment window, floating in a blue-white light up into a clamshell-shaped spaceship.
Okay, wait, hang on a sec though. Let's.
É muita informação.
She thought they were telling her. To
Muita informação.
Was she scared? Is this why she just went with it?
I'm gonna assume that there must be some kind of calming influence to them.
Okay.
Like, I don't.
Eles
think
têm poder
that
à mente.
like, you don't break into someone's house and go.
Right, without that person going, what the fuck?
I know, especially if you look like a minion.
Once inside, the beings experiment
Esses não parecem Minion.
an instrument inside her nose. After, she woke
Sonda
up
nasal.
2 hours later at 5 a.m. next to her husband in bed. In 1991, 2 years after the abduction, Linda reached out to Hopkins.
Ela tava sonhando,
her
gente.
nose, showing a cylindrical object that Hopkins describes
Caralho.
as having, quote, spiraling extensions that curl out away from her face, end quote.
Ah, ela enfiou isso na cara quando tu dormia, mano.
Surgeon and Linda's niece, Lisa Bayer. Shortly after, Linda claimed the object was removed during another abduction. Hopkins reports that Linda
Porra é
visited
essa?
a nose and throat specialist who confirmed the object was gone. A conspicuous ridge of built-up cartilage showed where it had.
Porra é essa?
Assumi o controle do meu mundo usando a
Pá.
Primeiro, filmei 2 chapas. Uma de mim faz...
once been embedded.
I don't like nose stuff.
Neither do I. If we
Eu também não gosto. Eu não gosto de coisas de nariz.
figure out their anatomy, we would say, okay, what's
Eu não gosto de coisas de
I feel like
nariz.
you'd at least
Oh,
try
shit,
to
that's his
talk
pee
to
hole.
it or observe it and not just shove shit into its holes.
I mean,
Exatamente.
that's science.
They also have small fingers, right?
I'm sure they have
small
long,
but long.
E.T. had a long finger, so he could get some distance in. He could go way up into that butthole.
É.
He would be. Ouch.
These details are somewhat common among abduction tales, but what makes this
Ah.
case famous are the supposed
Ah.
witnesses to the event. In 1991,
Quem são os testemunhas?
2 years after Linda's abduction, Hopkins received a letter from a police officer detailing an experience with his partner in November 1989. The two were sitting underneath the FDR bridge when they saw a blue light with a woman being levitated alongside 3 strange beings as they made their way into the
Ah, mano.
They felt guilty for not helping the woman, and one officer
Caralho, a mulher tava flutuando pra fora, mano.